At the tribal council levels, we agreed to do what we call shelter-in-place policy. This is not a lockdown. Despite what was said on the by Facebook media, we got some of the copies made and presented to us that people were circulating. Much of that what they said is untrue. Some, of course, has some truth in it. But let me explain to what we're doing. The step that we're taking now is to go from social distancing to the next step, which is shelter-in-place policy. And within that policy, we have a number of steps that I'm going to talk about quickly that we're trying to abide by. The first one is curfew. And although people put it out on social media unresponsibly, our curfew hours are going to be currently set from basically sunset when it gets dark to when sunrise comes and when it gets light. And in that what we're trying to accomplish there is that we're trying to make sure that people, outside of some exceptions, going to work, going to check on family, going to get essential needs, other people that have legitimate reasons to get in a car and go somewhere or to be out, this wouldn't affect them. But what we're trying to do with our curfew is to stop some of these groups of gathering, be it young children or older ones, younger adults or what have you, from congregating, especially at night or what have you, moving about. Because that's one of the primary ways that this is going to spread. If we have people out playing, children playing in large groups, and somebody's infected, and you infect the group, and those children bring it back to their homes, there's a whole array of problems. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to limit that activity. So basically, we're not trying to lock down, we're not trying to dictate everybody's moves, everywhere a person may have to go, work or otherwise. Essential things, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to get at those people who may be after hours late doing things they probably shouldn't be doing. If they're out and about and they're driving around at 2 o'clock in the morning and done, the law enforcement's going to ask them, what is the nature of business and why are you out at this time? We're trying to knock off some of the shenanigans, so to speak, that can occur from when it gets dark until the sun comes up in the morning. Again, to get control of everything, but also to stop the spread of the virus. Very important. The other thing I have to tell everybody is that these policies that we approved today are not finalized. There are some intricate parts that we have to finalize. We got initial information out that's going on the website regarding curfew and what we call also disbanding large groups in public. We're going to do those things. But at the same time, what we're trying to make sure everybody understands is it's an evolving policy. We expect to have it refined by Wednesday at the latest. Could be tomorrow. By our resolution has been approved. We have to change some languages, make sure that everything's going to work the way we plan to, and then we'll move forward with it. Again, I want to tell everybody, this is not lockdown. There are reservations in the United States who are committed to something similar to lockdown. But we are not doing that. Our policy is promoting and advocating shelter in place and the policies that are part of that. And so I want everybody to understand that this policy, as well as the next policy, do not apply for situations like wakes and funerals that our families have to utilize in order to provide the services and send our loved ones off in the proper way. And so they won't come into effect, as well as other things. It also doesn't include families on their own property, even though it's after dark. If they're sitting around a campfire on their own property in their own homes with their own families, this is not intended for that. Again, it's the people that might be wandering on the street or gathering in groups that they probably shouldn't be doing because it will contribute to the spread of the disease. So we need to understand that. So the second part of what the council has approved and we're refining and getting ready to incorporate fully is the disbanding of groups of 5 or more than 5 in public. Again, what we're trying to do is give a reason for our segment staff or law enforcement to see individuals gather, be it small children on a playground or what have you, to tell them, let them understand that you need to separate. You need to not get together in large numbers. That can go for adults as well, too. Not talking about walking for exercise. We're not talking about family being together outdoors. We're talking about non-family or distant relatives that live in different households and what have you, gathering together with the primary focus of saying, a lot of complaints from a lot of people said, what are you going to do about all these kids that are out and running around and playing because there's no school and it's a different circumstance. And so we're trying to address that situation with that. So both the curfew and the disbanding groups of over 5, we're trying to set policies in place so that law enforcement can with all due professional manners, come to them and say, this is something that this is something you need to disband. You need to go back to your homes or break up into smaller groups. And that's what we're trying to do with those 2 policies. We're also working very closely on our mitigation policy passed today to reach out and work with cooperative agreements with the commercial vendors who do supplies, those being your C-store, your grocery stores, or any other entities that remain open. Our cooperative policy right now is we're reaching out to those. We're going to go to the local grocery stores and say, is there means and methods that we can help you incorporate with how people order goods online, and they can come up and go through your drive-through window, or we can deliver curbside in a constructive manner, deliver the things that you need to your trunk, and you pay them accordingly. Convenience stores, we may fall back on the old scenario. If you recall some of that, where a long time ago used to be full-service stations. People would come out and help you pump your gas. We're trying to dissuade people from all converging into a convenience store, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 people. Instead, we might try to work with some of our convenience stores and our gas stations to say, have somebody that works for there to have all the protections in place with a mask and gloves to say, how much gas do you need? I'll pump it for you. That will stop that type of exchange. That's what we all grew up doing. People my age grew up knowing that's the way it was in place. Somebody would come out and service you by pumping your gas for you. We're asking for things like that to be considered. Again, to stop interaction, what we think will help. We're also very much working closely with our testing policy. Just for understanding, I know questions came in from last Friday. Who's been tested? How do we test? There's a lot of questions regarding testing. All I can tell you right now is that our current method and means of testing is very limited. We don't get to do the actual testing on Fort Berthold. We run it through our Alba-Woods Clinic. And then it mounts to a swab that is then sent to the state lab. So we're confined to the process in place of utilizing the states, and it's somewhat restrictive, and it can take up to 2 days currently, could take longer as things get worse. We're required to follow those steps right now, and it's not as responsive as we want it to be. That being said, our council, following my lead, has been very aggressive. We've worked close with the state. It looks like we're only a matter of days away, by the end of this week at least. We're going to have a capability to begin testing ourselves. We've also put ourselves in queue and in line for nationally FDA-approved testing on a national level to use our tribal resources to already order shipments of tests to come. Our basic philosophy and our basic plan and strategy is the more people that we can test, the better picture we have of the existence of the virus within our reservation, the more proactive things we can do for the protection and safety of everybody. So we're trying to expand our ability to test. And it looks like we got some really positive outlooks coming our way. We're going to be able to do that in the very near future. We're going to day by day keep working towards that. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and test those that need to be tested, and we'll move from there as well too. So that aggressive testing policy is very important. item. We're working close with the state. We got a concern because everybody that goes to Elba Woods, we get the data after it's tested and sent back. But if somebody lives off the reservation, gets tested, and comes back, we're not getting that information, and we've been working close with the state to try to get that information organized. Also, somebody that is an enrolled member and expects to come back here in the state, we want to know that information. So we're trying to gather as much to get a solid understanding and view of the prevalence of the COVID-19 virus on Fort Berthold. So all these, the teams are working on. Educated, strong people are working to stay on top of this. And they're doing an excellent job, and I commend each and every one of them. Long hours, no breaks on Saturday, no breaks on Sunday. We're all working very hard day after day because we're running out of time to prepare. The virus is here, but we can still keep working hard to mitigate, to slow its spread. And that's our goal in everything that we do today. The other question that has come up to some of you is that emergency supplies. We have a 3-phase process right now. We're doing acquisition and gathering, and that's also simultaneously going with storage and inventory. We're putting together, I have an awesome team that is working on that, been working on that for about 10 days, a week to 10 days. We've been putting all these supplies, a list of about 20, 30 items that we are now warehousing and stocking and storing because we think this is long term. If for whatever reason on the outside, supplies and goods cannot come in the way we want them to our local distribution, we want to be able to have emergency things in place, stored and stocked. The tribe is acquiring to make sure that everybody is taken care of, everybody's okay. Again, I want to remind people too, what we're doing as a tribal nation is because we have the sovereign authority through the whole reservation. We're extending everything we do here to help people, to both tribal and non-tribal people alike, both. And so we're not distinguishing. If somebody's in need on a non-tribal, they live within our boundaries, we're helping them. In addition, we're also trying to formulate ways to help some of our membership off the reservation, coordinating with the state and what have you. So all through all these policies, understand that we have been planning and organizing emergency supplies and processing. Now the third phase in that is called distribution. We're not at that phase yet. We're still gathering and we're still inventorying, acquiring. At some point in time, depending on demands and needs, we will start providing some of these goods and services as they're needed in an emergency basis. Some things might be in higher demand than other items. And so in that process, we'll set a time frame to begin to have people contact. We'll have all those numbers out and what have you, and we'll get that provided. Remember, we have websites. We have MHANation.com, ChairmanFox.com. We have email system. We have our local segments providing information similar to what I'm going over now. And they are also providing their own current distribution of goods, while the centralized system is beginning to stock and store. And so we have all these different awesome jobs being done by segment administrations, segment staff that are reaching out and doing some good things for the segment, and we can continue to rely on that. They're controlling that, and they're doing a good job of providing that help. And so we're going to continue that process on as well. I just want people to understand that people start getting in emergency situations, don't have diapers for their baby, don't have this or don't have that. We're going to go ahead and put ourselves in a position to respond accordingly to just emergency needs. Excuse me. Okay, the other item, and I mentioned it at the beginning, we really have to focus on this wake and funeral policy. It was what's come out as a guidelines. We had to do this because it was raised quite frequently by many concerned members, many concerned people saying, what are you going to do about wakes and funerals? Well, the tribe, as I indicated on Friday, developed a policy, a recommendation, strong recommendation policy and guidelines that we printed up and put into hard copy. It's a result of interviewing and talking and getting input from various elders through all the segments, all three tribes, and saying, if we adopt something like this, what are your thoughts? How do you think we can do that? We're very grateful to those elders and to those people who made these suggestions. So we have an actual formal policy now that has been slightly revised, but it still remains a recommended policy that's going to be on the website and exchanged to homes as well, too. And so we're going to have that done as well. And so basically, these are recommendations regarding wakes, recommendations about viewing of the loved ones, final review about the services, all these things that we're giving to senior pallbearers. We're giving it to the families who are responsible for conducting the services they want for their loved one. We're giving these recommendations in the hopes that most of them will say, this is what we have to do at this time to do our responsibility for the public and not spreading things by our mitigation, but also trying our best to help our loved ones get through this difficult time. And this is why we put these recommendations together. In the future, if there's a need to make them regulatory in nature, we will consider it at this time. But right now, we'll have that policy is established. It'll get out more on websites. It'll get out more door to door. Speaking of door to door, we are currently putting together, as the other segments have already done, flyers to each and every home in case they don't listen to radio, in case they don't have iPhones, in case they don't have computers and get on the internet. We are going to have informational flyers continue to be provided to homes, and we will have contact numbers, distribution process, all these things that I'm talking about, plus more for everybody to read and to understand. And in a very short future, every single home will have these distribution, these information letters or these posters provided to each and every home. So we're doing that as well. So all of that, I don't want to take up any more time. I already went about 15 minutes longer than I wanted to. And so I do want to finish with one thing here. Again, reminding everybody, we can do this together. We can do this together, but we got to be thinking, and we got to use the same system that we used long ago about having our people reach out to their relatives, to family members, to understand, to get them to understand the seriousness of what's going on. All of the people that live within our boundaries, our reservation, everybody that lives here, everybody that's off and comes back here, we have to help each other keep social distancing, help each other with shelter at home. They got a problem, have organized to help them, but also to stop the disease. We've got to work together. This is something that is not to be treated lightly. It's very serious, and I think a lot of people now recognize that. But it's not a time to panic either. We will have more people get infected. But if we do this right, work hard together and cooperatively, I truly believe that we can withstand this and we can suffer at a lesser rate than the rest of the world. That's the goal here. And for our elders, for our children, and for our people with underlying problems, underlying medical conditions, let's do that for all of our people. It's a chance for you to step up. Now, one of the things when I did when we did the announcement on this past Friday, when we talked about the first cases, afterwards I got a lot of texts and I got some information sent to me from people who were saying, we appreciate, you're reading a scripture on the air, and appreciate you sharing that. It's a difficult time, but it's through prayer, it's through our spirituality and who we are. That is one of our strengths, and we need to do that. We need to continue that. We have our spiritual leaders, people that have already done an awesome job of speaking to the Creator on our behalf, and we have ministers and we have others that are strong into prayer doing the same thing. So I recommend that everybody take the time, teach your children about the importance of prayer, keep the children understanding the importance of God during this time, and so that He will help us get through this at this difficult time. So with these people recommending and saying, I'd really appreciate if maybe you read this or you brought this up in regards to the Bible or spirituality and what have you. One of those requests came from my good friend Daryl, and he's one of our staff members and runs one of our very important programs, insurance program, but he's been a good friend, and he sent me a text and he said, it would really be good if you could share this on the radio with our people. And he did he did a recommendations for Psalms 91, chapter 91 of Psalms. And I'd like to finish my broadcast at this time by reading Psalms 91. In Psalms 91, there's basically 16 scriptures, and I'm going to read them quickly, but please bear with me at this time as I read Psalms 91. Again, thank you, Darrell, for your recommendation to do that. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in the darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. And because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. So I thank you for listening at this time. I thank you for those who made these recommendations, who are praying for us, who are positive thought. We're going to make it through this one way or another. And if we work hard and close together, if we seriously watch over each other and help each other, we're going to make it through this. And we're hoping that we will not have to suffer like they do on the outside. Bear with us on our policies. Bear with us on our efforts. We're going to do the best we can and be proud of who we are and where we come from. We're going to be able to do that because how special each and every one of you are. So with that, I say thank you for listening to me tonight. Maz Garage, go stay, take care of your families. Utilize the time with your families in a good, positive way. And I say again, thank you. Good night.